I want to share with you one of my favorite stories that illustrates some of the problems we have in internal auditing, but also in risk management and other disciplines when it comes to communicating with executives. And this is one of my favorites. As I said, this is hypothetical. This actually never happened. But let's imagine your child, you have a young daughter, and in the middle of the night, she comes running into your bedroom and she said, "Mummy, Daddy, oh, I don't feel well and my tummy is so painful." You go and you feel their forehead. Yes, they have a bit of a fever and their tummy seems a little bit bloated, but it doesn't sound too serious. So you comfort them, you hold them, you take them back to their bed and you encourage them to sleep, and maybe after a little while of being there with them and holding them, they fall asleep and you slowly tiptoe back to your bedroom for some more sleep. But it doesn't last very long. Maybe 20, 30 minutes later, that child runs back into the room. Oh dear, Mum, Dad, it's terrible. I feel so sick, I feel so weak, and my tummy is just getting worse and worse. And now you can tell they really do have a fever. And yes, their tummy is bloated and sensitive. You check their fever and it, yes, is serious. So you decide you're not going to wait until the morning. You're going to run off to the hospital, the two of you with your daughter. And you're lucky. You're lucky because you're seen pretty much straight away and taken back to an examination area where your daughter is subject to the normal temperature and blood pressure and look in the eyes and all the rest of that. And then they take some other tests and they go off, both the doctor and the nurse that are with you. And then they leave you to wait. And you wait. And all this time you're just imagining all the things that could go wrong. Maybe it's appendicitis. Maybe the appendix is about to burst or even has burst. Maybe there's something more serious than. You don't want to imagine what it could be. And it takes forever, or it seems forever, before the nurse comes back in. And you say, "Is she going to be okay? What's wrong?" And the nurse hands you what looks like a 25 page report. And you say, "Is she going to be okay? Why are you giving me this report?" So, well, you can in here you can see all the tests that we did and the results of the test and whether they're within or outside the test parameters. And if you turn to page 4, you'll see the executive summary of the results. And will she be okay? And you start shouting, maybe even thinking about throwing this voluminous document around. You just want a simple answer. And this brings the doctor in, thankfully. And the doctor reassures you that, yes, she's going to be okay. We're going to give her some medicine now. We're going to give her some treatment. We're going to give her something to take home with you so you can continue to treat her. And we'll monitor. We'll call you in another day or two. But if anything gets worse or doesn't get better, come back in. And maybe I should prescribe some anti-anxiety pills for you. So this is an example of some of the things that we do that fail. Communication doesn't work if nobody is listening. We don't have the time to go through a 25-page report when our child is in pain. We just want to know, is she okay? Will she be okay? What do we need to do? And so on. This was brought home to me very personally when I was with Coopers and Lybrand in London as a manager in the IT audit department. I was the top technical IT manager. And I was working with a colleague in the United States out of New York office, working on developing the global firm's audit approach to the audits of data centers, what we now call IT general controls, ITGCs. And when I came into the office one day, my manager, James Fanshawe, was talking to this older gentleman, and James beckoned me to come over and tell Mr. Jenkins, and I realized who it was now. This was Brian Jenkins, Mr. BGJ we called him, who was one of the top partners in the firm and oversaw all of IT audit for the UK. And he said, tell him how we're doing, what the status and progress is on the project. And this took me totally by surprise. I was not ready for this. And I was somewhat in awe of the great man. And he was a great man. He's an absolute genius who went on to become the Lord Mayor of the City of London. And I stumbled and I started talking, but I didn't get to the point. And I lost his attention. His eyes started glazing over. He started looking away and then quickly moved on because he had other things to do. He didn't have the time to listen to me. Not when I didn't get to the point, not when I wasn't telling him what he needed to know so quickly. And I found out, and James taught me, I needed to be succinct. I needed to tell him what he needed to know, because executives like Mr. Jenkins have the attention span of a gnat. The attention span of a gnat. They don't have time to waste. They want to be briefed quickly. They want to be told what they need to know, whether there's something to worry about, and especially whether they need to do something or have somebody else do something. We don't do that very well. I talked to a number of executives who will tell me that they don't have the time to read audit reports as soon as they arrive, because they're 20, 25 pages long on average. Some are longer, some are much shorter, thank goodness. So what they will do is they'll put them in a pile with other reading material, operational reports and analyses that they need to get to. And when they are going on one of their frequent trips, they'll read those on the plane. Now that's not what we want as auditors. When we find something that is important, it's important enough to be acted on straight away. We want our senior managers and executives and members of the board, this applies to them as well, to know about the situation, know about the results of our work, know about what we believe needs to be changed quickly so they can act on it. And waiting until somebody can get time, like sitting on an airplane, to read, it just is not working. There was one COO. He was the number 2 manager at this company, global manufacturer, Selectron. And soon after I became the head of internal audit, of an established internal audit department, I met with him. And one of the questions I asked him was how he felt about the value of internal audit and how well written and useful the audit reports were, because there were some really good things I liked about it, but there were some other things which I thought were missing. And I wanted to know what one of my primary customers felt about it. And he assured me, he said, Norman, they're very good. The audit department, I believe in them, they're doing a good job. And yes, the audit reports are good. So I thought, okay, it surprised me. As I got up to leave his office, I saw a pile of papers down by the floor, by the door to his office, and they were obviously being used to keep the door open. And as I looked more closely, I saw that the top one was an audit report. So I turned around and I started asking some questions, and I found out the truth was he never ever read them. He didn't have time. He needed to focus on other things, and he trusted his direct reports to be reading the reports and to be taking action as needed. He wasn't reading them. we need to think about our audit reports as communication vehicles. How do we communicate what our executives, what our board members need so that they can use that information when it's valuable, so they can take action promptly, especially when there's a serious issue, where there's a risk or an opportunity. They can understand it and they can do well. And they can see the big picture, they can understand, they can have the assurance, advice, and insight that is so valuable that comes from us. But a 25 page audit report that we expect them to read doesn't work. So how did I address this? I came up with a formula, if you like. Everything was going out through email. So the body of the email, the title would be audit report of such and such, right? Which would tell them what the topic was. And then it would immediately tell them, is everything okay? Was our opinion that the controls are adequate to address any significant risks of the enterprise? Is everything okay? Are there any issues that really require their or other senior managers' attention, but especially their attention, maybe the attention of the CEO, CFO, the board? And is there anything that they need to do? Anything they need to know and make sure it's done? That's basically all I put on that first half page or so of the email. And then the attachment would still have a one-page executive summary. And the only findings, if you like, would be that I would include in the report would be those that merit the attention of the more senior management. Other issues which don't really merit a lot of attention and could be reasonably delegated and assigned and taken care of by middle management, I left to middle management. And maybe there will be a memo on that, but they wouldn't be included in the audit report itself because they're just not worth my time to write it, and it's certainly not worth the time of the executive to read it. So they could see the results quickly in the email. If they wanted to, they could then dive into the detail. If they wanted to, they could call me. It was there available to them, but what I did is I made sure this way that they got what they needed to know, when they needed to know it, so that the action necessary to drive the organization forward could be completed promptly. I hope you can appreciate that. I hope this is valuable to you. If you like this video, please subscribe to the channel. Thank you.